We've all got scars, some on the outside and some on the inside. But we can't be defined by our scars. I've spoken with some extraordinary people about how they've become empowered by their scars. This is I've Got Scars, baby. Welcome. I'm so excited to have you on. This is, of course, I've Got Scars, baby. And I'm really excited right now. I really am. I'm super excited because I have been, well, first let me introduce you. For those who have not been following the Blackman Can, which I'm like, I don't know who hasn't been following the Blackman Can on Instagram, but it is amazing. But right now we have Brandon Frame. He is an entrepreneur, Morehouse graduate, and the founder of the Blackman Can. So, Black men, if you ever need a boost, I need you to go to this Instagram site and check it out. Yeah, go to his Instagram page, check it out, and see how amazing you are as a Black man. And so yeah, like that. I'm super excited to be speaking with you because I've just seen a lot of amazing things that you've been doing. I mean, you've been featured on BET honors and all. I mean, you just are, your brand is growing, you're expanding, all of this wonderful stuff. Before we get started though, you are the founder of the Blackman Can, right? And so, because I am the person that I am, I wanted to present you with what I call the Black man can't. Work with me here, because I just do stuff because I just was thinking. I was like, what can't the Black man do? I need to know what the Black man cannot do, since I'm talking to the man that is all about the Black man can. Okay, so here are some thoughts that I had. Okay, you let me know your thoughts. Okay, Brandon, you good? Okay, you gonna let me know your thoughts? We get this together.
All right.
Okay. All right. So the Black man can't put his mama's purse on the floor. That is something the Black man cannot do. No. Right? Yes? No? Okay. So.
No, you can't do that.
They can't do that? Okay.
No.
So I like to open stuff up with some silliness. And this is what I feel is the truth, though. This is the truth. So the Black man can't pass up an opportunity to watch Coming to America because it's a classic.
I mean, yes, that's pretty true. Like when you see it, you gotta watch it.
Okay. So the Black man can't listen to a Tupac or Biggie song and keep his head still for at least 30 seconds. More than 30 seconds. You can't do it.
That's true, but we also have a changing generation that hasn't heard those songs too. So
yeah, that's true. That's true.
Who's that?
But then they'll be like, yo, but I like the beat though. And you know what I'm saying? They'll get with it though, right?
Yeah.
Because you can't help it. Okay, cool. So the Black man can't look bad with a fresh fade and groomed beard.
I mean, I hopefully I'm a walking example of that.
Exactly. That's what I'm saying. That was for you. I created that specifically for you, Brandon. Yes. Yes. So, okay. So the Black man can't eat a plate of French fries in front of a Black woman without some of them going missing. I mean, maybe that's just me.
Yeah. We just posted a video kind of talking about that on the page, and like all the women were just like, his food looked better on your plate than it do on mine.
That's what I'm saying. Like you're just over there enjoying all the delectables, and I'm not enjoying them. That's a problem. The Black man can't do that. Okay, so here's the last one. The Black man cannot. The Black man can't not be loved by a Black woman and vice versa.
Facts. I think it's very, very accurate.
Okay. Okay. Cool. 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 I just want to run that by you since you are the expert on what Black men can do. So that's what that was. Thank you for participating in that. And
Yep.
yeah, so let's get down to it. One of the reasons I wanted to have you on the show is because I just believe that your story is incredibly powerful. And one of the things that I read about your story, we're talking about from fatherless to fearless, you know, and I think, you know, in the Black community, unfortunately, we've seen young people grow up without fathers in the home or fathers that are consistently in their lives. But there, of course, that's not 100% of the case. Of course not. And I believe that your platform is showing that Black men love their families, they're participating in their households and taking care of their children and wives and all of that. So, but for the founder to be someone who grew up without the father in the home, you know, I feel like that's something to discuss. So Brandon, what what's your story? How did growing up, how was that for you?
Growing up, I mean, I think my mom, my mom and my grandmother, and then for up until like seventh grade, I had my major role in like my development, and up until that point, roughly, my mom lived with her parents, right? So then I would live there too. So like I did not have my dad, but I did have a figure to kind of look up to, right? So I think about some of the things that I saw. Like I remember every day my grandfather would get up and he would go and like warm up my grandmother's car, especially when it got to the wintertime, and then drive it up to the front. So when she walked out, all she had to do was get up, put her clothes on, walk out the house, and walk right into her car and go to work, right? So I saw some of those things, and I think that was important for some of my development until I saw how a man should treat a woman, and yeah. So growing up, I mean, it was interesting when I went over other people's homes and just saw dads doing what dads do, and not necessarily having that, but yeah, as reflecting on it, even when you sent me the questions, I started to like try to reflect,
Yeah.
on that experience growing up. And I think I was fortunate to have my grandfather for a period of my life. And then from there, it wasn't more till I got to like around like high school that there was like a gap, between like, middle school all the way to like my sophomore year roughly of high school, where there's a little bit of a gap of not having maybe a role model. And that was like an interesting period. But I think that's when I got into like journaling and being able to express my emotions through written reflection.
Wow. Wow. So journaling. So when you say it felt kind of weird to a certain extent, did you have specific feelings? Like, okay, I understand that I live with my mom and my grandparents, but for real though, where is my dad? Like, what is going on? Did
Yeah.
that come up?
Yeah, I think you just have those thoughts. I think, I always think about like in a Fresh Prince episode, like I probably I've had moments like I had moments like that where it's like, man, why you don't want me? I definitely dealt with some of those experiences growing up, and just wondering why, and not really having an answer, and my mom wasn't somebody who talked ill. Like it wasn't like, your dad this or anything like that. He just wasn't present, and so I just kind of, it's like you grow accustomed to it.
Mm,
Like that's like the norm, right? And then like I had friends who did have their fathers, but then like I had somebody also who didn't, right? And so like it was like a normal thing. Like that's kind of like that's actually the norm. So like seeing it play out is like, oh, like that's different. Like, oh, is that what it's supposed to be, or like, or maybe they're just special. Like that's an outlier. My
Yeah.
is the norm experience, which shouldn't be the case, or I shouldn't see the world that way.
Yeah. So how do you feel like that affected you, like as a teenager, as you started growing up and maybe starting to date or whatnot? Like how do you feel like that affected you?
I think my grandfather affected me, like in terms of how to treat women. Like I feel like he, like even though I was in like fifth, sixth grade or whatnot, he would say things to me, and I think it's like he knew that he wasn't gonna be around, to see me now, right?
Yeah.
Be able
Yeah.
to see me through, these different things. I met my dad when I was 18, and so I was able to welcome that because I think growing up, because I journaled, right? And so I was able to get to a point of being okay and not
Mm.
wondering why anymore. It was just like, you know what, I'm excited. I'm happy to have an opportunity to build a relationship. And even how that all came to be, is just, I don't know, sometimes, like I really do believe like God just has us all on our different journeys, right? Where we all are walking in our own ordered steps. And I don't know, maybe sometimes, like, yes, people have choices and free will to do different things. We have that ability. But like when I look back at it, like I don't know, maybe that was the journey that I was, like, if you really embrace that, like that was supposed to be my journey. Like maybe you can look at it like, well, maybe I wasn't supposed to have that, but I had my grandfather, I have basketball coaches, different men were coming to my life who I may have not even built a relationship with if that was the case, right? Like sometimes I try to get into that spiritual aspect of it, and like, man, my
Yes.
ordered steps are my ordered steps. Everything that has happened in my life was supposed to happen to me. And then even embracing that's how you don't compare your journey to somebody else's. Like that somebody else has a dad and has different things like that. That's their ordered steps, right? And so
Yes.
just embracing my journey, and kind of moving along with that,
I'm really glad that you talked about embracing, because that's what we talk about a lot on the show, is embracing your personal experience, even if it's uncomfortable, even if it's something that you don't like. And I use my scar as an example. I don't know if you can see it very well here, but here's on my shoulder. It's, all of that. Like my story, I think you might know, but burned it a year and a half, didn't look at myself in the mirror until I was 25 because I didn't want to embrace my scar. And so I think the concept of embracing the thing that you feel like is the worst, that is the most difficult part, is a part of the journey. Embracing it in a way where you're like, this doesn't have to be like the demise of me. It doesn't have to be the worst part about me.
Mm-hmm.
And so I think that's really important. So when let's go back to when you were talking about journaling, because I still do feel like you got to do something with the emotions. You got to do something with how you're feeling. Because I don't feel like you should just ignore it, like, oh, whatever, I had this experience, and then you put it into a little pocket in the corner of my mind and forget about it. But journaling, what was your process like, and what did that do for you?
I would just free write, or maybe come up with a topic. I think it started more from school, and then I realized that I could like do it on my own in my own time. And so that's kind of what that's what I did, So then I just started talking to myself about, these different things or my thoughts and my feelings, and it was very therapeutic for me, and allowed for me to find a sense of peace, a sense of calm. So I just kept doing it, and that's even how like the journal now, this right here, I think right here,
Yes, love that.
Find yourself and redefine the world. A guided journal for boys of color. I made it just like because it was something I did, and so just like put it out there because it was a tool for me, and hopefully it could be a tool for other young men to do the same thing.
Awesome. 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 So growing up, so you, when the father's not around, there's different things that can happen. There can be, the weight is on mom to take care of things and to provide and to do, all of that. And I know you said she didn't speak any ill will of your father, but what would you say to the women who who have fatherless children? The men aren't showing up, they aren't paying their child support, they're not, active in their children's lives. What would you say to those women? Like, how do you deal with that? Because there's not only a financial aspect to this situation, but there's a mental, emotional charge there as well. How should they handle that?
Yeah, I mean, I kind of don't even necessarily have maybe like a real answer to it because I think, it's obviously not ideal. It's not what you would want, right? But I do think it's important to never speak ill of that person because you just never know. Like, so I met my dad when I was 18. Like, my mom could have put all these negative thoughts into my head around him, who he was, like whatnot, and then now I like when I meet him, so it's it's the power of a single narrative, right? So like that's not who that person is. Doesn't excuse them not being there, but like you can't paint a single sided narrative of any person, right? And so I mean I think that's the biggest thing. Like you just never know what the future and what the future holds. Like going back to like a spiritual side, and I think I try to really anchor myself in that is, you walk by faith and not by sight, and so in that journey as a single mother, I guess you have to try to embrace that view of things that, what, like I have to put in my best effort, do the best that I can, and raising my son, my daughter, and do the best I know how to do. And with that, it should lead to, it should lead to at least decent outcomes, right? Like I think who I am now, I don't think my mom prepared me to make sure that, in my opinion, and she's getting married next week. So,
oh, congratulations to her.
August 1st, she's getting married.
Awesome.
And but I just think about growing up, she prepared me to make sure that when I walked out of the house for good, right? For me, it was going to college. Like, I haven't lived at home since I left, for college, other than like little winter breaks, right? She prepared me that so when I leave the house, I should be able to function. I still have to learn how to be an adult. We all had to learn how to be an adult. Nobody teaches you how to really be an adult, right? But you learn it, but you get skills along the way. You get experiences along the way so that when you walk out the house, you know how to conduct yourself, and and how to take care of yourself, right? Like, and she did that, right? She made sure that we had everything that we needed. We might not have, there's things that we all want, right? But did you have everything that was needed? Yep. Was there nothing but love in the house? Absolutely. So, that's all. That's like the best you can do, right? And I'm so grateful for that, and I think one time we went to a mother and son dance, and they asked me to speak, and I said a few words, and I just kind of gave the mic to my mom. And my mom like tore the house down, with, a message for all the mothers, So I feel like you gotta talk to my mom, like I feel like she could share like, hey, I was 20 years old and when I had this young man and here's what I did, you know, and she just did the best that she could. She made sure I went to she would put me in a Catholic school, you know, 1st through 8th grade, which gave me a great foundation in terms of, you know, my educational footing. You know, she just did the best that she could, you know, like I think as an adult, you know, I think about all the things I try to do for her now, because as an adult, I can see all the things that she sacrificed, right?
Yeah.
Like I think about, you know, dating women and all that, right? You see the things, and just being on Twitter and Instagram, right? Like, you know, a woman every week, she want to get her nails done, her toes did. She wants to go buy some new bras and some new underwear. Like, these are things that like are just the little things that make things like make you happy, right?
Yeah, yeah.
And I know that my mom sacrificed a lot of those things to make sure that I had, and then I have 2 brothers and 2 sisters, right?
Wow.
Well, so like she sacrificed so that we could have, and
yeah.
Now as an adult, I just try to do what I can to help her out, because I know that when I was younger, she went without. She had all those things. I just think about all the things that women like to do, right? You know, and she did get she forfeited a lot of those things to make sure that her kids had, which is that's what you do as a parent. Is you know, even if you have a lot of money, you still, maybe it's not forfeit those little things, but it's just time. Like, oh, I want to go do this thing, but I can't because my kid has to do this, right?
Yeah.
So it all looks different, but she sacrificed so much to make sure that, you know, made it to basketball games on time, and you know, all those things. And I'm just, I you know, I love my mom. I'm probably, this is probably a little bit of my speech for next week.
Aww.
You know,
Yeah.
so that would be the message. You know, it's more so just sharing like that story, you know, and like I said, and like now I have a great, you know, relationship with my dad, and you know, we're season ticket holders to the Dallas Cowboys. When he got married, I was in his wedding, you know, so I think, you know, I think that's cool. I think an interesting thing is that, so my dad has 6 kids, you know, I'm my mom and my dad's only child together. I think what's interesting is that if you had me on here, and then you had my sister, he has only one girl, so that if Janice, or Nisi as we call her, who's on here, and you had her talk about my dad, and then you had her talk about her experience, you wouldn't know that you're talking about the same person, right? So like, she is a daddy's girl. She's a daddy's girl through and through. However you want to define what a daddy's girl should be, that is
I
her,
understand.
right?
I'm a daddy's girl too, so I get it.
Anything I want, anything I need, what doesn't drop everything to come take care of you, whatever it is, you know, that's her. So like, but I also see that, right? So I know that that's part of like the single narrative, right? Like, I could have been berated with all these negative things, but like, that's not 100% who he is, right? You know, and so I think so. That's the point. Like, and is it we could get into a thing like, how does that make me feel? And we can go there, but I'm just saying, like, I'm aware of that, right? As I got and I got to see him, like, and I spent time with my sister, I was like, wow, like, she, like,
a completely different experience.
100 is a whole 180, right? And that's just, you know, and that's just, I guess, again, it goes back to like, that's just how it is sometimes. That is just, that's real life, I guess, you know. I'm not saying that it's fair, but it is real, you know. So
so I feel like you said a lot of things that really stood out to me, and one of the things that stood out is your mom did not create a narrative for you about your dad. So in essence, it sounds like pretty much you were given kind of a blank slate, so you can figure out how you feel about this guy on your own. And I as much as like that could be frustrating for a woman when they're in the thick of going through it and taking care and, you know, being responsible for everything, it's not so much about the person, it's about the child and what you create in the child's mind. So I just thought that that's really powerful. is to give the child an experience where they get a chance to figure it out for themselves and draw their own conclusions when they're in a proper headspace to do so. And so I think that that's like a huge thing. And then meeting your dad for the first time at 18, what was that like? Like, what is that conversation? Like, sometimes somebody might look like, okay, so yeah, where you been? What was that experience like for you?
I mean, I think it started, we had conversations before then. It actually happened when I was at Morehouse. Like, he happened to be in Atlanta. It was the spring semester. I had an intramural basketball game. So like, I met my dad like right after like my first, intramural basketball game. And then we have had a few conversations, several conversations beforehand. And it was cool. Like we chatted up a little bit, went to Wendy's, get something to eat. And yeah, it was cool. Like, it was like, it was like meeting a friend, I guess, like, or for like the first time. It wasn't, like I said, I didn't have any like, animosity or anything. It was just cool. Like, it was just like like, oh, it was good, like, oh, nice to meet you type of,
Yeah.
I mean, like, it was, and then we just kind of built from there and, established a little bit of rapport around friendship, and then built into more. And, and I think for me too, I'm also pretty like, I'm really like laid back for the most part. I'm a really chill person, and just kind of like, roll with, like, we just go with the whatever way the river is flowing. I'm flowing with the river. I'm not trying to go against the tide.
Oh, okay. So
I'm
you're
kind of
not
like
that
really
rebellious spirit. You're not the
like,
fiery person.
really, nah. I'm like a calm, cool, collective, person for the most part.
Okay. So did he explain like where he was, what the situation was? Was it that, or?
Honestly, yeah, I've never asked. I've never, like, I think I was at peace with it. Like, I'm
Wow.
like, yo, like, this is need to build, right? Like, well, you missed all my basketball games and missed all these different points in my life. Like, it's just not, I don't know, I just never really been a person to rehash those things, or like, like, the past is the past, things happen, we just try to continue to make progress and move forward and be better and improve, we can look at the past and we use it so that it doesn't happen again.
Yeah.
Right? It's like, it shouldn't be that I've been so giving you the so.
Wow. It's so interesting to hear you talk about it, because everybody does not have that same kind of temperance, that same kind of, they don't always see it that way. There's this, resentment can form. I needed this, I needed that growing up, and you weren't there and you should have been there. It's very interesting, and it's a beautiful thing to hear the other side of it, to hear an element that's just kind of like, hey, I'm just really interested in what can, like, the good that can come from this. And I think that's a really wonderful way to look at life. Is I could sit here and try to punish you all day, but that's not necessarily going to get me the results that I desire from this relationship. So let me just, be happy and be grateful for what I have had, and see what we can do with the relationship that we have from this point forward. I think that's incredible. It's very powerful. And that's a whole different way to approach it, because you don't know what he had experienced growing up or whatnot. But had you kind of been set in your ways of saying, you're terrible for this and you need to pay for that, then you wouldn't have a relationship now. So, how do you feel your experience with this has kind of set you up for the Black Man Can?
I think if anything, the main thing is probably just the journal. I think the Blackman Can comes from a space of more like I had aspirations. It starts like it starts even with the idea, you know, when I was younger, I wanted to be a sports broadcaster, but I didn't see. I mean, you have Ahmad Rashad and Stuart Scott, and that was kind of it in terms of like that I saw. And so get to college and I'm like, you know, doing work with young men, doing mentoring and stuff. And I'm realizing that, you know, Black boys and men don't have positive images themselves, positive narratives, are operating in silos, don't know everybody, you know, all these things. And I said, you know, the Black man, we need a place where all that lives, right? That can be a connector of Black male excellence. And so that's kind of where the Black Man Can comes from. And then through that, as I get older, the Black Man Can evolves as well in terms of things that we focus on. So like how we even try to touch upon mental health or even touching on fatherhood. Like when I started, that's not necessarily like that was a piece of what we did, right? It was really just about telling positive news stories. But then it's like, you know, we got to talk about father because my friends started becoming fathers, right? We need to talk about Black love because everybody started getting married, right? Mm-hmm. So it's just like these things. So as I grow, or as I grow as a man, the Black Man Can grows in terms of things that we're covering. And now it's even like thinking about how do we not necessarily backtrack, but then what does it look like to capture 18 to 25-year-olds, right? Because I'm far removed from that group. What is important to them, what they're listening to, how they're moving, and what the world may be like for them, you know, is a little different, right? And so like even thinking about what does it look like to capture 18 to 25-year-olds in terms of content and their experiences.
Got you. Well, you know, I just, because I do believe that a part of your experience for me, one of the reasons I started this podcast was because I was like, man, I wish I would have known. Like my revelation at 25 was, I just felt like God said to me, Audrey, everybody has scars, some on the outside, some on the inside. And that was the thing that like really gave me my freedom and it propelled me to move forward toward my own healing and looking at myself and embracing my scars and all of that. And so I do believe that a lot of times the things that you've experienced in your life, whether they're really, really good experiences or, you know, not so good experiences, can absolutely serve your purpose and provide you with a particular perspective so that you can serve the world in a positive way. So, you know, I feel like, yeah, all the stuff that they say that whenever you're kind of frustrated with your surroundings for a particular reason, and you're like, this cause gets on my nerves, this situation gets on my nerves, you're supposed to do something about it. And so that's what it sounds like you've done, is said, you know, hey, I don't like what I see around here. And you are making the changes so that you can see what's in your mind's eye and what you really desire to see with the Black Man Can. So I think that is amazing. So what would you say to young men who are growing up, who are, their father's not around? They are like, hey, I don't, you know, I wish that I had the perspective that you had, but I'm pissed. I'm angry that this dude is not here. I see my mom struggling. I've seen us struggle. I've seen blah, 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 blah. What would you say to that young man?
I mean, what would I say? I would say that this right now is not, it does not have to always be your reality. I would say that there's going to be obstacles or there's going to be stumbling blocks, but you're going to have to turn your stumbling blocks into stepping stones. I'm going to say that you're going to have to show perseverance and consistency in your endeavors to change your circumstances, and you might not be able to change it while you're still a young a student, or under 18, right? It's going to be the work that you're doing now that will help propel you later, right? Like you don't be a victim or to letting social media rush you, right? Like I didn't even have that, but I wonder what it's like now for young people to see certain things like, I want it right now. And so like it's going to take hard work to change or shift where you currently are and where your family is, but it's possible. But it just takes hard work and dedication, and know that there are men out there who want to help, want to be supported, and take time to try to identify those spaces and places where you're able to learn and to build, so that you can get the tools necessary so that you can be successful.
Okay. Awesome. So when you say tools, what kind of tools are we talking about? Are we talking about grab a journal, your specific journal, for them to write out their feelings? Your journal, the Black Man, is like,
yeah.
What would you say?
There's a journal. There's the journal. There's the Blackman Can as a organization. The Building a Better Brother Summit. There's mentoring groups throughout different communities throughout the country, right? Like I think all the resources that are needed, they're there, but you have to go find them. I mean, yes, there can be an access issue in terms of that, but like there are mentoring programs, there are different programs that are around to help young men navigate the waters. And so you have to find those programs. And when you get into those programs, you have to stick to it though, right? Like everything is a process, right? Like, it's like, you don't show up in first grade and then you're in eighth grade, right? Like you don't show up freshman year and then you're a senior. You don't start a business and then the next day it's $1 million business. Like those things, that is not how this thing of life works. There's no person with any sort of success in any way, shape, or form will be like, yeah, I started at this point and then now I'm here and here's what I had to do in the middle. Here's how I failed forward, right? So I think all those things are really important, and it's important to hear those narratives so that you can turn your stumbling blocks into stepping stones to pursue excellence with impeccable effort.
I love that. So stick to it. That's a part of life that, like, it's so easy to just say, hey, I just want to get to the destination, but you try to ignore the journey and how you get to that destination is all about what you become throughout that journey. So I totally agree with that. So now, what would you say to a man who's 30s, 40s, and still has some dad issues or some resentment and has held on to it for a long time?
I mean, I would encourage him, and even a young man, but even that man, I would encourage him to seek out therapy. I think, you cannot allow yourself to be arrested at the point of trauma, right? So like there was that traumatic experience and then you get trapped there, right? You get incarcerated there and actually get out, right? And so you have to seek out help to get to break free from that mental incarceration so that you can flourish and become the full man that you are destined to be, and the man society needs you to be, your family needs you to be. That's really important.
I love that. And it is so interesting. What I heard from that is don't get trapped in trauma. Like, that's huge. And I think that's one of the things. I'm glad that you talked about therapy, because a lot of times, people may shy away from it. They may think like, okay, I don't want to tell people my business. And I always look at it like, hey, if you're trying to win, do what you need to do to win. Like, athletes have coaches to help them do what they need to do to win. Mm-hmm. And so, I just encourage anybody that is feeling stuck, is angry about some stuff, because what you don't want it to do is not only ruin your life as far as ruin the relationships in your life, but also could ruin your life from a physical perspective. And, when you have trapped emotions, they show up in your body as disease. So, people having heart attacks and all types of other stuff going on because they have these emotions they haven't dealt with. So I just think that's a huge part of it too. So I totally agree. So the Black Man Can. What would you want the world to know as the founder of the Black Man Can? What would you want the world to know about Black men?
That Black men are not a monolithic group of people. That the Black man is human. That we need just as much as women have their brunches. Well, not necessarily right now, but they got the brunches and the empowerment summits. Men need the same spaces, and we have to create those spaces so that we can have restoration and healing, so that we can address our privilege and our power that we have, so that we can be allies to Black women, right? But we have to create the spaces for those types of conversations to be had. That Black men are out here doing the best that they can, and that we are making strides in unifying with each other so that we can actually bring about success to our communities. I always think about, like, I won't give the full story, but it's like The Lion King, one of my favorite movies. And so, like, just the idea of Simba returning to Pride Rock because it was his rightful place to lead the lead people, right? And so it's important for Black men out here working so that we can return to our different communities, as well as continue to lead our communities in uplifting ways, so that everyone flourishes.
I love that. I love that so much. So how can people get in touch with you? How can they follow you on Instagram, get involved in programs? What's that?
Yeah, at the Blackman Can, Twitter, Instagram, Facebook. Definitely check us out. Follow us if you're interested in volunteering, supporting, donating, buying merchandise. BlackManCan.com, BlackManCan.org, and check us out and rock out with us. We just trying to I'm just really just trying to do my part. The service is the rent we pay to occupy our space on earth, right? That's the saying, right? That's what the Black Man Can is. The Black Man Can is my part. That's like the rent that I pay. That's my part in Black Lives Matter movement. That's my rebellion. That's my joy, and I want as many people to join us in that movement in any way that they feel is the best way for them to be a part of it.
Wonderful. I'm so excited about this. Thank you so much for being a part of the show and taking your time to speak to the people. Really appreciate it. And yeah, the Black Man Can. For sure. All the way.
Absolutely.
All right.
Thank you so much for having me. It's an honor and privilege to be here. And I look forward to, you airing this, but then we'll do a second edition and we'll do it in person.
Yes, please. I need you. Okay, first of all, I'm so glad you said that. I feel like I feel so weird being distant, and I'm like, do I look here? Do I look here? I don't know what's going on. I'm just trying to make it do what it do. Yeah. But I love being in person. I love that type of connection and that in-studio connection, that type of thing. But I'm like, you know what, God, we're gonna work this out the best way we can. And I'm very excited. I definitely want to have you back on because I know you're always doing some amazing stuff. So it's gonna be a lot of stuff to talk about, like, period, because you're very versatile, different topics. So we're gonna do that.
All right, I like it. Sounds good to me.